Welcome to the Chase Smith Podcast, a conversation on current events and culture. It's great to have back on the show Jason Gallagher. He's an Emmy Award-winning director. He's the producer of Mind the Game with LeBron James and Steve Nash. Just launched season 2. Jason, congratulations on that. He's also the Old Man in the 3 podcast. Jason, thanks again for coming on the show, man. Second time.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I have to say, our first show is just a time capsule of a previous life, Jason. It's a remarkable listen. I don't know if you've thought about that conversation of like the 45, 60-minute podcast. 30 minutes of it is just how our franchises are set for the next decade.
Yeah. It's a, I can't really go back and revisit that time in my life. It's too soon.
If I were to ask you then, what would the worst case scenario be for your franchise? Would you have guessed it played out the worst case scenario for your franchise?
It's somehow worse than the worst case scenario.
It truly is.
And I've said this before, but the trade happened, very shocking, very upsetting. But the subsequent events that happened after the fact made it worse. And I can describe to you in detail what I enjoyed about our conversation is that we sort of talked about the identity of our fan bases and the identity of the relationship between the fans and the organization. And the Mavs organization took a massive sledgehammer to all of that. And I think that might be the worst part. Is I've said this before. The Pacers had me on their pregame show and I got to talk about it, but it really does feel like they didn't really just sort of like kill the the future of the franchise. It feels a little bit like they kind of took a knife to the past a little bit. And I think that's very difficult. It's very weird seeing Dirk at Laker games. It's all just very strange.
How was it for you, Jason, to verbally process on such a national level? I mean, if you were to reading some of those headlines long enough, eventually I felt like I saw your name pop up as a fan, as just being in what you do. How was it for you to just process in front of so many people this, Jason, it's a life, like you're going to remember where you were. Like it's one of those moments that's going to, it's a huge moment for a lot of people, but how is it to process in front of so many people, this really personal thing?
Yeah. No one's asked me that before because, obviously I've been vocal about my disdain for the organization and just the trade itself and how short-sighted I think it is. And, I've been accused a lot of sort of, grifting a little bit or attention seeking a little bit or whatever it might be. And the only thing I would say is that I work in and around the NBA. I work in and around a lot of high profile people. It's not out of the question, I've had interactions with Adam Silver, blah, blah, blah. This is not good. This is not technically great for me in terms of I had a Zoom with some, an NBA player and they've been like, man, you're kind of on one. And like, it is, but the more I've sort of thought about it, the more I'm like, this fandom in the Mavericks has actually been a huge part of my life. It's been a huge part of my childhood, my relationships with my family. It's also, I attribute it to what I do for a living. So it's actually like a massive, massive deal for a certain subsect of people. And I think Dallas, I think that I love Dallas and I love the fans, and I don't really, blame anyone for how they sort of have decided to deal with this. Some fans are plowing through. I know plenty that are just sort of like, hey, the Mavs have always been a joke. I'm going to keep going, and I actually empathize with that a little bit. I have a friend who is like, basically like, you think I'm going to stop being a fan after this? Have you read the headlines we've had in the last decade? And it's actually like a pretty good point. But, I think I'm a little bit, it's actually like it simultaneously like very sad, but a little heartening a little bit that Dallas fans do feel such a very distinct clear identity with their fan base. So it's been really weird. It's been really weird to process it. It's been really weird to be asked about it so often.
Yeah.
It's a, it sucks. I wish it wouldn't have happened. Truly, I
Yeah.
really wish it wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah. It has been really interesting observing this completely, you know, objective without any skin in the game. Um, I I see a lot of similar threads with the Deshaun Watson trade for the Browns,
oh
for
yeah,
a lot of Browns fans,
sure.
and I find myself like I loved the Browns, Jason. I oriented a lot of my like when the Browns came back, I was like, yes, like it was it. And um every Sunday when something crazy with the Browns would happen or whatever, when a new article would drop, people would always text me. I started this Browns podcast, and I just it wasn't nearly at the scale of that you were at, but a lot of the same. It was so sad. Like it was a very family thing. I had so many people just text me and ask how I'm doing. And it was just like insane. I still have to catch myself referring to like the Browns as we sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Um,
it's I still do the same thing and I still,
mhm.
poke around. The way I've sort of described it is if you break up with somebody but you do check in and every once in a while on the socials, that's what it feels like with me and the Mavs. I do go
Yeah.
like, "Oh, AD did pretty good tonight." But,
Mhm.
you know, it's such a strange thing. I find myself like loving the players that were on those existing teams, and I
Yeah.
said this before. I think I'm going to be a fan of PJ Washington wherever he goes, or
Mhm.
really any of those guys. This team was really fun to root for. So I cheer for the players. At the same time, it's like the fact that Nico Harrison still has a job is sort of a joke to me, and
Yeah.
I know that it's a little bit of a bit to say fire Nico, but I've like actually thought about it, like what's the move, and I really cannot believe they haven't fired him yet. Like
Yeah.
it's I am not a conspiracy theory guy. I'm
Mhm.
not. The longer they keep him around, the more I buy into it. I'm just like it makes no sense. It makes
Yeah.
no sense to keep him around,
Yeah.
and I've always believed that. I've always believed. I mean, not believe. I know that he was the one driving this. I know that he was the one pushing it. He has been pushing it for a while. I know that Dumont is pretty clueless with all this. I think Nico convinced him of it. And the first time Patrick Dumont got booed at a Mavericks game, and he was like, "Are they booing me?" And then, as it sort of continues to go
Mhm.
along, a lot of these executives can't really go to Mavs games anymore,
Yeah.
uh, which is not great. Businesses
Mhm.
around the Mavs stadium have like not seen a lot of traction. The
Yeah.
ticket sales are pretty bad, like all of that stuff. I don't, take even the basketball out of it. I don't see how you don't just, as a signal boost to your fans, to say, "We hear you, we see you,
Yeah.
fire the guy." So at least some portion of fans. I mean, there are some Mavs fans that think I'm wrong about this, but there are some portion of fans that would absolutely come back and say, "Thank you for getting rid of him. I can at least try to, cheer for Spencer Dinwiddie now."
Yeah. I think that's called bargaining in the whole process.
Yeah.
Jason, I don't know. Conspiracy is the word for it. I think it's bargaining.
No. I say conspiracy just simply because I'm like, it really doesn't track as to why an
Yeah.
ownership group would keep him around. It
Yeah.
does not make any sense.
Yeah. Is there
He
a way?
ruined their franchise. Like he ruined it, and Luka was the present, and he was their future.
Mhm.
And Anthony Davis is a top 75 player all time. He's amazing. He's amazing. But you traded your present and your future for like a very narrow window,
Yeah.
very narrow present where
Mhm.
everything has to go right.
Yeah.
And what's cool about cheering for Luka is actually a lot of shit can go wrong and you still kind of have a chance.
Yeah.
And I've thought about this with regards to, been thinking about the MVP, Jokic, Shea, things like that. And last year, Dallas fans still feel very butthurt, I guess is the word, over last year's MVP campaign because I'm one of those people that felt like Luka was really dismissed.
Mhm.
And it's not even that it's not even that he lost, it's that he was dismissed.
Yeah.
And it was all because of a team record. They were like 4 games worse than the Nuggets, 4 or 5 games, and that kind of did it for him. And
Yeah.
he was never taken seriously. Yeah, Jokic had 60, 10, or whatever. Luka had 60, 21, and 12, and
Mhm.
national media was like, "What's wrong with defenses?" Like if we felt like Luka got a raw deal out of it. So we Dallas fans are just they're so passionate about it, and I've been thinking like, why is Luka so unique and fun to cheer for? And it's like that's actually why. It's because he is like a player who has teams that on their surface don't feel like they should reach the heights that they do, and then they do. And it's happened now multiple times in the playoffs. He's a huge sledgehammer to the playoffs too.
Yeah.
Like just is. And whatever conventional wisdom you might have
Mhm.
about, oh, Minnesota's the best defense, possibly ever, and oh, this and that, it's just sort of like he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Phoenix is favored. Cool. I'm just gonna go into their home court on game 7 and just blow them out by 40.
Yeah.
Like,
Really, really hard to like game plan and scheme around players like that.
yeah,
You
totally.
described it almost like Ethan Hunt. Like so many things can go wrong, but you always still have a chance to come
Still
out.
have a
Like,
chance. And with this trade, it had to go exactly right. It had to go exactly right this year and next year, really, to keep the vibes high. Because Anthony Davis is rep by Rich Paul. Vibes
yeah.
better be high, or else who knows?
Yep.
So it's like you got to keep the vibes high.
Mhm.
And this season I cannot see them going very far. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't see them going very far. If they're all healthy, then they definitely have a chance. But I can't see them going very far. They don't really have a creator.
Yeah.
AD, the game will slow down, and we'll see what AD can do without a creator. But I think it's kind of bleak. And then next season, Kyrie's going to be out from a lot of the season, and that's bleak. And
Yeah.
yeah, just man. And so,
Mhm.
and then you don't get much in return in terms of hedging for your future, which I think is the insane part. Which I think it's like, hey, and Tim McMahon has said this before. You want to be out of the Luka business, be out of the Luka business. That, whatever. To not hedge for your future when you know for a fact you could, that's
Yeah.
what it's like, dude. That is bad GMing. I mean, what I was talking to Haralabob Vulgaris. He
Mhm.
just pointed out a very, very clear fact. You got one draft pick out of Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson. You got one draft pick. That's bad GMing.
It's criminal.
It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal.
Yeah.
So, and,
Yeah.
and so yeah. Anyways, I could go on and on.
Yeah, we really could. So, last postmortem here,
Yeah,
Jason. Is there anything the Mavs can do that you're like, I'm all the way back in?
they can start they can start with firing Nico. That is the
It's a
That's the
start.
one thing that I feel like they should do. I think it is the inevitability. I think they're going to have to do it at some point, and I think firing Nico is a huge, huge part of it. Again, it has very little to do at this point. Well, one, he is a bad GM.
Yeah.
We need to put that out there. So with regards to the basketball stuff, he's bad. He's
Bad
just
before
bad.
this Luka trade. Like it's not like this. Like,
Well, I mean, that's a little debatable, but like I think fumbling the Jalen Brunson thing, which he
Mhm.
did fumble, don't let
Yes.
anybody tell you that, oh, Rick Brunson orchestrated this. Yeah, after you fumbled it, maybe, but he
Yeah.
definitely fumbled it. So there's that. Then there's
Mhm.
this whole piece of like, yeah, well, look what he did to get PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Bro, he tried to give up 2 draft picks for Kyle Kuzma, and Kyle
Yeah.
Kuzma turned him down. That's what happened. So don't let anybody like that's what that Mavs team would have looked like.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean I don't know if I can cuss, but he's bumblefucked his way into
Yeah, you can cuss, man. Yeah.
but I don't think he's necessarily a good GM. He again, like it's not a good thing when the biggest name in your organization is the GM who fans hate. Like
Yes.
that's just never a good thing. And
Yeah.
that's step one to showing the fans, hey, we're sorry. And it's going to take a lot to get back your trust, but we're going to try. by choosing Nico, you're choosing an agenda that is counter to what the fans want, and you're sticking with it.
Yeah.
It's counter to what we know that the identity that Mark Cuban built, which don't even get me started on that. It's also counter to like Dallas's idol Dirk. Like
Yeah.
it's just counter to what he sort of represented in Dallas. So there's just so much to it, man. And I think that that's step one. I don't think it's a one move, hey, we're all back, but I do think it's like one move, okay,
Okay.
I can start to clear my conscience and wrap my head around maybe, cheering for these guys again because they're
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, so that's
Maybe couples counseling, maybe a couple group dates, maybe see. So there's a little bit of okay. So there's still something in there, Jason. All right, that's really, and I know it's hard, um, but okay. Well, that's all right. Well, enough of I know it's brings up all sorts of emotions, and I'm sure we could talk more and more and more. As much as I don't really I want to talk about other things because this is a really fun NBA season. I
absolutely.
really think it is. I love the Cavs. No longer have the best record in the NBA. They are 5-5 in the last 10. They took a West Coast trip and it really kicked their butts. I think I saw somewhere they haven't had a practice in Cleveland in like 50 days. Like they've just been out so long. Are you worried about the Cavs? Because I'm not very worried. I shouldn't be worried, right? Like they're going to be great.
Yeah, worried. It sort of depends on what your ultimate expectations is. If it's a championship, I look, even when they had the best record in the league,
Mhm.
as an objective observer, I was like, well, Boston's going to be tough, and
Yeah.
certain teams are going to be tough, and if you get to the finals, the Thunder are going to be tough. That hasn't changed, even with them not having the top record. Like
Right.
I felt like there is a tier of teams. They're still in that tier for me. So.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think worried as far as like not winning a title. I think the genuine realistic expectation is Eastern Conference Finals. I think anything short of that
Yeah, it's a
and
letdown.
Cleveland fans are going to be like, whoa, what the heck? Like what's
Yeah,
going
it's going
on?
to be a real letdown for a number of reasons,
Mhm.
and mostly because it feels like there's a pretty steep drop off after y'all in Boston. At least
Yes.
that's what it just feels like.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be a little bit of a letdown. I think as basketball is a team sport.
Mhm.
So like, I don't mean this to sound like a little harsh, but it's like would love. I guess I would just say, I'll flip it. I would love to see Donovan Mitchell like succeed at a high level.
Yes.
Like it's just it feels like it's a little like Harden-esque, where it's just like, oh, and I would. He seems like a. We've had him on the pod before. He's
Mhm.
awesome, and I would love to see him like have that success because he's really, really freaking good. And
Yeah.
so yeah, man, I'm a big fan of that team, and I like want they're a part of the soul of the NBA. I don't think still gets like represented very well on a national level, and I want people to get to know Jared Allen, and I want
Yes.
people to know Darius Garland, and the best way to do that is to go deep in the playoffs, and I think that that is the best. I think the NBA is just like as good as it's ever been, and they are like a part of that, and it's just it would be nice if the basketball gods like allowed us to showcase them and OKC and these great
Yeah.
teams don't get promoted nearly as much as they probably should.
LeBron just gave Jared Allen a shout out. He had a breakaway dunk. We just beat the Knicks in Cleveland.
God,
Another comeback win last night. We're recording this on Thursday, April 3rd. And Jared Allen got a steal at like mid-court and tried to do a cockback LeBron dunk.
it's really funny. It's funny hearing him say it because he's right. It's like it doesn't really cock back. It goes more to the side, and it's
Yeah.
just so like it's like it's not even close to looking
No,
as
well, and I don't want to tell you how long I looked. Someone posted a side by side. LeBron's legs like are kind of straight, but also athletic, and Jarrett's are like curled and kind of like really trying. I gotta know. It's just like it's like the bronze dunk. But Jared Allen is so pure, is so he earlier in the season he said the Cavs play ethical basketball, and there's
yeah.
no better explanation than I think to describe at least how this team is set up. Kenny Atkinson just went on record last night too and said this is the first year he's coached where he's never had inner turmoil with the team about more touches and more playing. Like this was post game last night. He's never had this ever.
Yeah.
Um, and I 100% believe it. You see it on the team. You see it through the bench. You see it. I mean, talk about like body language. Like the Cavs
It
do
matters.
pass all those vibes.
It does matter.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you right now, like I've all in the last 3 years, I have believed that continuity and connectivity are the real X factors. In a game that has more talent than it ever has before, it doesn't feel like you can have these like real shitty vibes and get and break through. You know, it just doesn't feel like you can do that anymore because of how much talent is in the league. Your team has to be this connected thing. And
Yeah.
so I made the observation that, hey, there's no way to quantify that. There's no way to quantify it. So if you're a numbers guy, completely ignore what I'm saying because whatever, it's your thing. Like I have gone to a majority of the Thunder home games. It's
Mhm.
impossible to miss just how connected that team is.
Mhm.
Just how like they actually are stacked in certain areas on their roster. And there are certain games where certain guys don't play. As the playoffs come, the rotation's going to tighten. Like this, and nevertheless, the vibes. I don't know if I've ever seen a bad moment on that Thunder in a huddle on the bench like no bad body language. Like pass to me, they don't. There's a shrug. There's none of that.
Yeah.
And I think that starts with your best players. And so, but this was sort of like what I was just saying. Like I don't know, maybe this is nothing, but I think Shea's an unbelievable leader, and that
Mhm.
team, that all like that team that looks like an all-time regular season team is not what it is without somebody like Shea leading the way.
Yeah.
There's just no way. And so those vibes translate over to Cleveland. I think that also really, really matters. Like it's the X factor in all of it. It's
Yeah.
buy-in. One of the things that I heard recently is it's buy-in with your coach. If your best player is committed and bought into what your coach is saying, that goes so far. And
Mhm.
that is very sad. It's sad, but it's kind of rare. It's actually like more infrequent than frequent, I would say.
Mhm. And I would go a step further, really not buy in. I'd see like champion the coach because I think professionals
Yeah,
can buy into what they're doing, but to really champion the coach and the culture and the
empower 'em.
ideas
Yeah.
is that's the difference between being a professional and having that buy-in, that like champion. And I think Donovan Mitchell needs a lot of credit for the culture in
100%.
Cleveland being
100%.
being that A1 option. His numbers are statistically down from his best years this year. And
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence but that's how you get the buy-in for
yeah,
whatever the chemistry is, all that stuff. It's like, oh, if this guy who's had this already sort of storied career, he's accomplished a lot.
yeah,
If he is actually willing to make sacrifices for the betterment of the team, like
yeah.
then nobody really has an excuse.
Mhm.
That's
I
what that.
yeah, I no, I kind of almost hope that he picks and chooses his spots to harden it up a little bit, maybe. Because gosh, there were some moments in Utah where he like overexerted himself
Yeah.
sometimes. And um, I know he was younger and I working through that. But I really haven't seen that much in Cleveland, man. And yeah, so the expectations, Eastern Conference Finals, anything other than that, I think it's going to be really, uh, kind of like a bleak summer, like a bummer summer. Who are your final predictions? You think we do make it out of the East, Jason?
If I was a betting person,
You'd say no.
I'd probably say Boston, Oklahoma City. Boston hasn't done it. I'll just put it this way. I always sort of defer to the champs unless they show me something that is a big uh-oh.
Yeah.
And Boston hasn't really done that. They're not as like they kind of have like a very classic we just won a championship vibe, which is
Hmm.
just sort of like regular season, but I don't know. Nothing nothing's really worrisome. And so they're gonna get the benefit of the doubt from me. But
That's fair.
I'll say it won't be a shocker if Cleveland beats them though. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's
Mhm.
like that. That's how I feel.
Well, gosh, I'm going to say they're making the finals just because I believe it in my heart, and I've seen them up against Boston. They're not intimidated. I do not. I know we talked about the Magic, I think last time too. I don't want to play Detroit either. I just think they're young and hungry and physical and have a lot of just
Angry.
length.
They'll mess you up, man.
Yeah.
They were in Oklahoma City last night, and I almost went. And then I saw players were suspended. And I'm like, what fun is watching Detroit if there's not the threat of violence? Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Can we talk about the defensive player of the year? And then I think that's all that want to get to here with you, Jason. So Evan Mobley has generally been the front runner. Just the past couple of weeks, Draymond says he should get it, and now there's a lot of discourse around. Well, yeah, maybe Draymond should get it. What is the correct way to view this, Jason? Help us as an NBA fan.
There's not a correct way to view any of these
Okay.
awards. That's where I'm at. Is I'm so like burnt out on the award thing. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw JJ kind of went viral yesterday because he talked about the most improved player.
Okay. I didn't see this. Sorry.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so good. I'm actually looking it up right now. So this is bad podcasting, but he said, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? Sorry. He said he hates the most improved player award. I hate that award. We failed to define it. Just call it the high draft pick who's on a max contract and now is an all-star award.
Oh,
Like,
I mean, he's not wrong.
not wrong. And so for defensive player, a part of me is just like, just call it the big guy award. Just call it I mean, like, because the idea that we're going to compare what like Lou Dort does and Evan Mobley, it's just like kind of
Yeah.
two different teams. And so it just feels silly. It's like the MVP sort of turned into who's best player on the best team. So these things are sort of defined that way. I think Evan Mobley should like that would be my vote right now.
Mhm.
Just based on like he meets the criteria for what it's traditionally been. I
Mhm.
think any time that we kind of like for no reason sort of switch, I'm always like a little annoyed by that. So like I will be annoyed if Jokic wins MVP this year. He does not meet the qualifications for what you guys set the last few years.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why we are making an exception every chance we get for this dude. It's Shea. End of
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. I had to look this up. The last non-center or forward to win, Marcus Smart in 21-22.
Marcus Smart. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, in really, if you look in the last like 20, 25 years, it's like really like two or three that have won. It's a weird award. And
Yeah.
we had Jalen Williams on our podcast. And I don't think this is like the fix, but a couple months ago he said that he thinks two people should win the award. He thinks it should be a guard or a small and a big, because he's like, how do you quantify it?
Like the perimeter D, like
Like how
is
like Drew Holiday's never won it. And if you were to
yeah.
ask a basketball player, like in the last 10 years, they would say Drew Holiday is the best defender. Rudy Gobert winning it, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the best player in the world, if he gets isolated on them, they like literally salivate. So I don't know how that is the best defender in the
Yeah.
league. So it's a weird award. I think based on the criteria and based on the fact that it's deserving, I think it's him. I don't think it's Draymond. I love Draymond. I don't think it's Draymond.
Draymond won it.
I would make a point for somebody like a Lou Dort over Draymond. Lou, I saw an unbelievable graph yesterday. If you guys want to look it up, from Royce Young, that basically showed the best players in the league and what their averages are. And then their averages when Lou Dort is their primary defender.
Yeah.
Crazy. That guy just locks people down. He fights through screens. He's big. He's physical. He's sometimes a little reckless. He's everything you want in a guard defender. Like it's just. So anyway.
It does seem with the way the NBA's changed that they have to the defensive side of stats and awards hasn't evolved with it, which has been
No. I mean, like even if you wanted to talk about the big guy case, it's like I don't know why Anthony Davis hasn't been taken seriously in the last few years. I mean, he literally can guard from half court
Hmm.
And, and there's just not a lot of guys that can do that and
Yeah.
that could switch almost 1 through 5. Um, that that versatility is not valued because it's very difficult to quantify. There's just not a lot of, you know, like juicy stats with that. There's some,
Yeah.
some advanced stats that can inform that, but the juiciness and what's funny is the juiciness of the box score stats, like I don't think necessarily translate to is that person a great defender. Like for example, Luka Doncic top 5 in steals. Not he's not he's not in contention for defensive player of the year.
Hmm.
Nor should he be. So
Hmm.
anyways,
Yeah.
it's a weird award. I like my last bit on Lou Dort though. I know I kind of hijacked your Evan Mobley thing to make this about Lou Dort, but
No, it's fine.
I did not know that Lou Dort has never made an all defensive team. And I'm like,
Mm.
what? That's crazy. That guy is one of the best defenders in the league and has been for like 3 years.
I feel like he's not well round. Like I feel like you look at the defensive team, like it does seem there's a certain level of like points and other skills that they look for. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
Dort.
There's a little bit of a flashiness to it.
Yeah,
Too.
yeah, that's a nice way to
Not
put
very
it.
far. Not very.
Yeah, yeah. Just people listening, the previous winners, Rudy Gobert's won 4 times in 7 years.
That's
Uh,
insane. That's insane. Objectively, it's insane, right?
no comment.
Shout out Rudy. He does good things, and he he definitely deserves some shine on the defensive side because of
Yeah.
certain things he does.
Mhm.
But 4 times,
Yep. Yep. JJJ Memphis won it over. I think that was Mobley. I feel like has been in the top 3. I feel like the last 3 years. Marcus Smart, the point guard, 21-22. The last point guard, Gary Payton from like 96. Giannis won it in 1920, the year he won MVP, which is pretty dope. Then Dre in 2016, and then Kawhi back to back before that. So I'd be open to doing like I think that's, yeah, I like
What?
that. Doing the big and the small, like the,
Yeah, it's just how do you how do you compare Drew Holiday to Evan Mobley? Really, that's tough.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the Chase Smith podcast. That does it for this episode. This was so much fun. Thank you all for downloading and listening. Shouts to our sponsors. We have none. And so message me if you want to be featured here among many other spots here on this podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review, add a rating to help others see this show. Jason, any final thoughts, man?
Oh man, I wish you well going into these playoffs. I'm envious of having a team to cheer for. I'm kind of all over the map. It's a little bit of go Lakers. It's a little bit of go Thunder. And for you, it's a little bit of go Cavs. So
It's all the go Cavs. One final thing. Favorite Val Kilmer movie?
oh boy. Well, so I'm like, obviously I love Tombstone, but I'm just gonna say that like the movie I've definitely seen the most is the Batman movie he's in. I think it's Batman
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. And it's probably not his finest work, but like there's a nostalgia there for me that it's like I just watched it so much as a kid.
Yeah.
He was kind of like it hit right. The Michael Keaton Batmans were I was a little too young for it. The Joker scared me when I was a kid, and then the second one's weird as hell.
Weird, dude. Yeah.
And then this newer Batman comes, and that was kind of the primitive Batman. And then the fourth one just sucked.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid being like, I don't like this. Why
Yeah.
they have nipple suits? We don't
Right. Dude.
But that Val Kilmer Batman was kind of my Batman.
Yeah.
And so, shout out Val Kilmer. That is probably not his finest work. I hope his estate's not too angry with that answer, but I just love it.
Dude, top tier Bruce Wayne. Like I think people who play Batman, they have to play Bruce Wayne, they have to play the fake Bruce Wayne, and then they have to play top tier Bruce Wayne. He was incredible. The first actor I hated was Val Kilmer because of Top Gun, Iceman, but like he made me feel that. And it's like the first memory I could feel of, I don't want to see him on screen. This guy's the worst. Like, even though so anyway, yeah. All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend. And I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Everybody see it.